you down, you gotta stand up and fight. Oh, you got to stand up. Oh, you fight.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
In person is so much more beautiful.
Yo, what's going on, guys? You're here with Bunch of Bull Studio, and
We have Zookeeper here.
it's TCG News and Reviews, and tonight it's a really, really big episode. We have Johnny, aka Moldy Potions, here from NOM. We're gonna
what's up,
talk about
everybody?
play footage. Really excited to get into this.
So how you doing
Heck
today,
yeah,
buddy?
me too. I'm doing well. I mean, like you guys know, we did the first debut stream of the gameplay last night. I was so
Yes.
excited. I mean, honestly, I've been waiting to talk about this more, but I wanted people to see it in action, because it is kind of unique, and I think seeing it's the best way to kind of get a grasp on it. So, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm just kind of still rolling from last night. That was so much fun, and I'm excited to be here to talk about it. How you guys doing?
Great. Yeah, I was going nuts last night because I tuned in for so long, and then we had another podcast going on, so I had to back out. And I'm just like the whole night, like, man, I only seen probably about 5 to 10 minutes of the gameplay, and I'm like, dude, I'm going nuts right now.
I saw when you were like, I got a dip. I was like, all right, man. But we're gonna do more. We're gonna keep that, like, because it's such a new type of game. I want to regularly be putting it up and letting people stop in and learn to play and check out how it all works, because that's really it is different. So I want people to see it because I think it's cool. I think it's rad, and everybody who's tried it so far is like, this is so fun, and that's literally exactly the words you want to hear when you make a game, right? This is
Yes.
so fun.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and I'm excited because just from what I've seen so far, it's like you guys are gonna pull a lot of people from like the board game side of things because it's very much so RPG setup. Like just
Yeah.
from what I've heard and the little bit I've seen, I'm like, this is way more simplified. Like, throw away the action figures, way more simplified. Here's a card, and it looks way cooler because it's shiny.
Yeah. I played a lot of those types of tabletop games growing up, and Warhammer, Risk, those types of like really deep strategic games that you get super into. But the thing with those games is there's not so much Risk, but definitely Warhammer. There's a rule book, it's like that
Oh,
that
yeah.
thing, the compendium, and it for every single card, or I shouldn't say card, for every single piece that's on the board, you got to look up stats, what happens when it gains a level, or you people are used to flipping through these volumes, and I'm just like, we can do that with cards, man. You don't need the big like library book, as cool as that feels to have on the shelf. You can just look at the card and all the info's right there for you,
We
and
went to a couple trading card tournaments, and I'm just like looking at the shelves at all the figures, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
to build a proper, like, let's say Dungeons and Dragons, to build a proper, like, nice big setup, you got so much money in figures, and not only that, where are
yeah,
you gonna store them all? Your living
100%.
room is now your collector's piece.
Yes.
For sure. I can tell you from experience that transitioning from collecting cards to collecting D&D figures takes up your entire living space. Yes, you're just like, oh man. And you can't, they're all fragile. So like nothing can be bumped or touched. Yeah, you got red tape all around your room basically. But yeah, and on that note, let me say this. Right now we're tracking everything in the game with dice. You'll see that. But one of the goals that Victor and I both have, because we're both total collectors in this sense, is to introduce series of figurines that are little, pieces that, like, let's say you're playing a deck and all the champions who are in that deck. Usually you won't have too many champions in a deck, or if you do, they're kind of repeats of the same champion. So you would know who you had in the deck, and you sit down to play the tournament, and homie across from you is setting up his dice, and you bust open your little chest and pull out, like your Ralph figurine or your Kaya figurine, like we would definitely like to offer those kinds of upgrades eventually,
Oh, yeah.
as
see,
we make more connections.
Yeah, see, I personally like that a lot.
That
Yeah.
also sounds a lot more compact and
Mhm.
portable.
Yeah. I like
For
the feel
sure.
of it.
For sure. Yeah, the goal is to have a very base game that people can access easily, and then offer little upgrades if you want to dress it up. We all like to get the cool sleeves and stuff like that. We want to be able to offer that same kind of experience, but with your game pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what people do with like custom game mats.
For sure. Yeah, and
That's
I'm working on the tournament policy right now, but we are going to accept figurines to a certain point. Like if you want to bring your own D&D figures that you painted, as long as you have a base on it that has a number that, you can get those bases that have number 1, 2, and 3 on them, and there you go. You're good, man. You can use whatever figure you want to represent your character on the board. We just want to know where they're at. That's really what it's
You
about.
guys heard it. Start start putting them together.
Yeah.
3D printer. They're gonna go to town now.
Oh yeah, anyone
Oh
with a
yeah.
3D printer.
Right.
He's gonna
Right.
be on fire.
It'll be fun. That's the goal. It's just create community, create fun, get people together, and let them experience something new that isn't just to use the common terms, like another Magic clone.
Yeah,
So many card games are Magic clones, and I don't blame them, because Magic was awesome, but we got to branch out a little bit.
yeah. 30 years later.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I love the idea of this being like an RPG. I'm so excited to get into it.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
I was telling him that I had you set up for an interview, and he's like, dude, I've asked him so many questions whenever I first started playing MetaZoo.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Happy to serve. Honestly, it was a pleasure. Like the whole time helping people learn
Yeah.
the game, and I love games. I really do. I've always been obsessed with them. If you go look at my elementary school yearbook in the back, there's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And mine's like an RPG maker for the company Squaresoft. I was like, that's what I'm doing. And didn't quite make it there, but life takes you other places. But it's always been the goal, is to just create fun for people. What could be better?
I think
Uh,
this is going to be the next most fun thing I'm going to be doing. Very
Oh
excited.
yeah,
for
I
this.
Heck
can
yeah.
see us doing a lot of
Yeah.
videos playing, because I fell into the World of Warcraft thing.
Oh yeah,
Whenever Burning Crusade first came out. So
I remember.
oh man.
Yeah, that's one of those games I actually have on my no list, because if I ever download World of Warcraft, everything else in my life just declines,
That was
as my
me.
level increases.
That was me to a point where I had to get it tattooed on my arm.
Nice. Yeah, that's the For the Horde tattoo,
Yeah.
right? Good stuff.
But yeah, I know I'm excited to get into this. I know you're definitely excited, because
Very good.
I collect and play. He's
Yeah.
strictly a player.
Yeah, I collect
So
play sets.
yeah,
That's
and
what
he
I
always
collect.
tries to convince me to play my real expensive MetaZoo cards. So I know that he's like way more excited to watch this than I am, because he doesn't care about the collecting aspect. He's just,
Yeah.
I want to see it played.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, I'm excited, because that's the thing that feels so nice about this. Whenever I get to talk about it, is like, we have a real game here, and I'm very pumped about it. I think that it's really cool. So, yeah, man, let's get into it, and feel free to ask any questions if you guys want. I'm gonna close my door real quick because I think some noise is leaking in, but I'll be right back.
Alrighty.
So
All
we're
right,
gonna,
there we go.
go through this gameplay footage and talk about it as we go through. Think of any questions, shout them out.
Yeah, totally. I
So
can kind of just, hit me up. Let's just, however you guys want to get it started.
I was gonna say, I think the first question is, how did you get in touch with Victor?
Good question. Yeah, I met Victor at Orlando Collecticon. He was there doing the MetaZoo stuff, and I was there getting signatures and saying what's up to everybody, and just like, it was one of my first times going out to a Collecticon to play in a tournament, kind of meet the community, since my brother and I had been doing our videos. And so I saw Victor when he was on his break. He was just walking around checking out the floor, and I was like, I gotta say something to him, but I gotta be like cool. Like I don't want to like. I know he's been just doing the signing thing, and I know he's really gracious with it. Like he gives people time, he hangs, he talks to everybody. So that stuff is precious and also a little draining, right? So I was like, I want to be cool. So I just was like, hey, just wanted to say like, what's up? I'm Johnny, Moldy Potions, and I just like love everything you're doing. And he's like, oh yeah, and he kind of knew. He had like heard about the channel and seen a couple episodes, I think. And I just was like, I don't want you to sign anything. I just wanted to say what's up to you. Like it's a pleasure. And he was like, yeah, cool, man. Let's chat some more sometime. And so I took that as an opening then to shoot him an email at one point back just after the convention, and was basically like, hey, I would love to just help. I'm a world builder. That's what I do. I've got like so many stories and stuff that I've kind of built for myself that are part of just my own like big world, and I've helped other people develop theirs for different projects because it's just something I enjoy doing. It's so cool to watch a world come to life and to fill in all the little mechanics and details of it. And I was like, if you ever want something, like hit me up. And so we got to chatting about that, and I sent him some stuff I'd written, and he was like, this is cool. This is very cool. And so we just kind of started to meet casually, just to like let him tell me a little bit about Nom and what he was working on, and me just try to help kind of tease it out of his head and like
bring it to life.
Almost show him how much he had. It's almost like I think a lot of people don't realize how much they have built until you really get on those tangential conversations and everything comes pouring out. Oh yeah, and they have a family member and this and that, and this story goes to that and all this. So we kind of teased all this out, and he was like, man, we have a lot of really cool stuff here. I mean, he has such cool, unique ideas with the idea of Mount City being this giant, huge mega city that is ancient and has been built and destroyed and built and destroyed countless times because this world is that old. Who knows how many civilizations have been there? And
love it.
Yeah, dude. And like, dinosaurs, kaiju hunters, dino tamers, artificers, all this type stuff. Like it's all there, everything you could want. And then there's doorways to every other world. So anything can wander in to Nom through these portals. And I just fell in love, was like, man, this is too cool. And so, long story long, we got to a point where he had an idea for a direction that the project might go. And there was kind of some I wouldn't call it disagreements, but just some team members weren't on the same page exactly. And we decided to make some adjustments in the team. People wanted to go separate ways and stuff like that. And at that point, we had a conversation that's like, where should we take this project? And I was like, all right, look, this might be a crazy pitch. Okay, this might be nuts, but what if we just drop everything that you guys were talking about and just focus on making a really cool game? That's it. Just a dope game that people can play. I know you've got the IP, and we'll get to all that. We've got things coming down the pipe that we're not talking about yet. That's one of our goals, is like not to overpromise. And so we just want to, it was like, let's just take it one step at a time. Let's make a badass game that people just love. And it was like, the whole team was like, let's do it. And so we focused on that for about 8 months. And that was when we took the time to really build out and figure out what we wanted Nom Verse to be. And, here we are, which is why it's so cool to be able to share with you guys and show you, because it's really been a labor of love and passion from gamers, from people who have played games their whole life and wanted to try to create something new, something fresh for everybody.
I think that's one aspect that'll make this game be not just fun, but successful, is the fact that people that are passionate about it are the ones making it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely efficient that way, right? Definitely. Like, I feel like everything just flows better because Vic and I are usually on the same page creatively. And if we're not, it's a very quick disagreement that's like, yeah, okay, well, whatever, let's do it that way or this way. There's so much good things to work on that you don't really get caught up on anything else. You just want to keep doing it the best way you can, because that's how you build something great. Step by step, just do everything the best you can.
Well, awesome. Awesome. I think that was perfect. That was an awesome
Nice.
answer. Thank you. Covered that.
Yeah.
Every aspect of how I'd want that. You covered it. That was awesome.
I know it was a long walk, but I do feel like it's a cool story. Like I'm very happy to have the relationship I have with Vic, and it did totally just come up out of nowhere
Yeah.
a couple years ago, you know. So
Passion.
big hats off to like the TCG community in general, just for being
Yeah.
such an amazing place where you can meet people like that.
Yeah. Like obviously I think like most people who know about him are obviously a big fan of his artwork.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. He's such an amazing artist too.
Yeah. I've
and
never got to meet him, but I
one
mean,
thing
how
I
could it not be
really
cool?
one
That'll
thing
happen. It'll happen.
oh
I
yeah.
hope one day.
One thing I really love about like so far the characters I've seen is like I find ways to I find similarities in like other like I find Hunter x Hunter vibes, if you know
Hmm.
what I get in
Oh
a
yeah.
couple characters. And like Belmonte gives me like Vagar vibes from like League of Legends. Like I'd be seeing these characters and I'm like, they have so much similarities. And not that it was based that way, just like I like that they're very relatable already.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that drew me to Victor's art and Nom Nom in general was that the art triggered cues in my creative brain that was like, man, that is Hunter x Hunter, you know, or some of the other ones, Soul Eater, you know,
Yeah.
there's some Naruto feels in there too. And I can't turn away once I start to see all those things in one place. I'm like, I'm in, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I started seeing them and I was like, oh yeah, exactly like you said, I'm in. Like
Yeah.
I'm sad I missed volume 1, but I've every single one that's dropped since. I'm like, how can I not?
Yeah. Victor's like, I would love for us to like take inspiration from the, you know, like the video games of our youth, you know, like the 90s and 2000s, the SNES,
Oh yeah,
PS1 generation. And, you know, once again, it's just like, let's go. That sounds great. You know, that's my happy place anyway. So let's
Yes.
do it.
Yes. Absolutely. That's when everything was good.
Everything was so good. I know what happened.
It was after 2000s, even movies.
Hmm.
well, it's a perfect time to show them that things are gonna be good again.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's do it, man. Let's jump in. So Noah owns these 5 sectors. He can drop Dawn Guardian right there if he wants.
Yeah, it's
And then there's no summoning signal.
sped
So
up
if
a
he wants to,
little
he can
bit,
just start
but
moving into my sectors. Yeah,
with his
right on.
EAP
and his 2 move. Is there any way? Yeah, I was gonna say kill that audio.
He's the blue pits.
I could
yeah.
just tell you what's happening.
Yeah, that's what I was
Alright.
about to ask. If you just want to, elaborate.
Yeah, for sure. So, what we got going on here is I'm showing you guys one of the sectors right now, and on either side of the sector, you'll see those dots. Those are the spaces within that sector. Each
Okay.
sector of the game has different amounts of spaces. Right now, they're all between 1 and 3, and you lay out a map that you're going to actually play through. That's your dungeon, and it's built of 10 sectors, 5 of which you own, 5 of which your opponent owns. And
Okay.
you get to build those sectors as part of your deck. So, like a Nom Nom deck, for instance, might look like a 40 card deck that you're going to be playing your main deck, and then you have 5 sectors, and you have a boss as well that are separate from your deck. The game starts because you're going to shuffle up those sectors to randomize them and then lay them out in front of you, flip them over to see what your dungeon map's looking like, and lay your boss down in the final sector. Boss
Okay.
already starts on the map. And then when you draw your hand, most games, you draw 7 cards. In Nom Nom, you're going to draw 8 because you get to place one party member into play for free to start the game. So you
Okay.
draw 8, you place one into play. So I, for instance, chose Gordon Blue, and he's the guy who's on the left side of the map on the closer play mat. He's
Okay.
tapped right now. We call that resting.
Yeah.
And so he's my first party member on the board. You can't see it, but he's also represented by a blue dice that's just off the camera to the bottom end there in that last sector. Party members always start in the entrance to the dungeon, so at the very last sector, and then their first move brings them onto the board. And your goal is, if you look at the other end of the board, you'll see that they have actually 2 party members on their left side. It would be my right, and their party members are on the map already as the blue 1 dice and the blue 2 dice. They're actually moving up those spaces on the map. The cards are just so that we can track the actual effects of the party members, buffs, debuffs, damage, level ups, things like that. but you don't move the cards. You'll move the dice as the character progresses.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, that's awesome. I was
Okay.
wondering how the squares, what you mean, how it was lining up and how things were set. That okay.
Yeah. So that's where the figures and things come into play. You are representing your first party member with the blue number 1 dice, and you're representing your second party member with the blue number 2 dice. They have different stats. They'll have different move stats, power stats, things like that. They also have different amounts of AP, which is their action points, or the amount of actions they can perform before they have to rest. So different characters can move farther. Different characters swing for more. You know, some characters have a bunch of AP and can do a ton of stuff in a turn. You've got a pretty wide variety, and your goal is to move your party up your left lane and all the way to the opposing boss. You'll see that if you follow the left lane of my board up onto the opposing right lane, there's a card at the end of that right lane, and that's their boss who's waiting for me. If I KO that boss or destroy or kill that boss, it's game over. I win the game. Same thing if they KO my boss, game over. The other way to win is to KO the entire party. So if he would get some crazy awesome sneak attack, make it all the way back and take out my one party member right now, that would be game. Luckily, that's very difficult, basically impossible to do. So that's not an easy thing to do. But once you get into the game, you'll start to see play lines where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to that boss, but if I focus on taking out their party, I can win this game that way. And so your left side of the board is your party, and your right side of the board is all of your monsters, or as we call them, nomsters, who are roaming the dungeon and are basically there to frustrate the opposing party, slow them down, maybe even KO them if you get the plays right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
So it plays like, it's like a blend between chess and like a real-time strategy, like StarCraft or something like that, where or like Final Fantasy Tactics, where your movements matter a lot. You have to move your troops and be smart about your movements, but you can be strategic, and you know, you can move back and forth. It's not forcing you into each other. And we can get into the resource system and explain that a little bit, just so you guys know how that stuff works.
I heard that they create their own resource. Is this true?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
there's no resource card in the game. We didn't want that. There's too many problems with it. Everybody knows it. It creates a great RNG because people who aren't very good at the game might just get a win because the other player didn't get what they needed. You know, we've all done it where you like draw a card and you're like, got nothing, pass turn. You know.
Yep.
We didn't want that to be a part of this game, like not at all. So so we created our own resource system from the ground up, and the way it works is that each lane in your dungeon operates a little bit differently. So the party side, your left side, operates on experience points, which are generated by your party members every time that you rest that party member. Resting is essentially you saying you're done with them for the turn. When they run out of AP, they have to rest, but you can rest them. If you just didn't want to use that party member that turn, you can just go, I'm going to keep them there and rest. And whenever they rest, they'll generate XP equal to their calling cost. So if we had an example here, next time it pulls up a champion card, I'll tell you guys where the calling cost is at. But for Gordon, for example, he has a calling cost of 3. So when he rests, he'll generate 3 XP for me. I can use that XP to call out more champions into my party, or to equip items to Gordon, or I can choose to pay his calling cost an additional time, and he'll gain a level. So that's how level ups work. And when you level up a party member by paying his XP an additional time, you'll also get some effects and buffs and things like that.
Okay. That makes so much sense.
It's pretty cool. So you're encouraged to play because the more you do with your characters, the more XP you'll generate, the more you get to do. It's a really nice kind of flow once you see how it works. And there's no summoning sickness. So everybody who you bring in, you're using right away, which makes it really exciting because you can, first turn, you could play a party member, get XP, play another party member, get XP, play another party member, and you've basically got a full board state. But the opponent can do that too, you know, so it gets pretty cool. Games can really have major turnarounds and stuff like that.
So while the card's up, why don't you?
That's what I just paused.
Yeah. So the calling cost is the 3 green pips in the upper left below the champion symbol, and that means that he costs 3 to call into play. I got him for free because he was the first champion to start. But anytime if I wanted to call another champion into play, I'm going to have to pay their cost.
Okay.
That's also nice because he'll generate 3, like I said. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, that's the champion resource system. And then on the other side with the Nomsters, it's kind of an inverse system, but it's really I really think this is cool. So on the other side, you have up to 5 dungeon points that can be filled, and those dungeon points are yours to basically distribute between Nomsters you bring into play. Similarly to the experience points, Nomsters will have a calling cost that's 1 or 2 or 3, and it'll be marked with red pips rather than green pips.
Okay.
When you bring that Nomster into play, you'll occupy that many pips out of your 5. You're capped at 5. But let's say you bring a 3-cost Nomster into play, you now occupy 3 of those pips are full until that Nomster leaves play. So you are always allowed to bring Nomsters out essentially for free on your turn, as long as you have room in the dungeon for those Nomsters.
Okay.
You're allowed to play 1 per turn this way, but there are also effects where you can get more out, kind of cheat a few more out. That actually happened last night. But you're capped at 5. So you could have a 3-cost and a 2-cost Nomster in play at once, but not any more than that. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And that way, your experience is completely focused on the party side. I know it feels a little like it's weird to have a double resource system, but once you feel it out, it's actually pretty intuitive. I think it works really well because you focus all the XP on your party. You don't think about using it anywhere else. And then when you close out the party phase, it's almost like clocking out of work in a way. It's kind of cool. You're like, all right, done with that. Let me look at this. And it's like a whole fresh side of the board for you to dive into. So if your party's getting eaten alive, you're like, don't look at that. Let me just focus on my Nomster side,
I love it. So much to think about.
Yeah, I'm excited to see people make these like big brain Nomster strategies where it's like 1 4-cost and 1 1-cost or something like that.
Yeah. And we've got we may, maybe have some effects coming that change the amount of dungeon points that you're allowed to have. So you could maybe raise your cap to 6 somehow and be able to have a more Nomster focused deck. I'm very excited to see the meta rise up because there's so much movement involved. I have a feeling we're going to see kind of like a chess type meta where there's certain ways to open the game. There's certain mid game strategies and there's certain ways for late game to close out, that become popular. Yeah. I'm really interested to see what those are and try to throw a wrench in them every once in a while, with a new card.
So are there types?
Yeah.
Like fire, water, thunder, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, sort of. So if you look under her calling cost, the green pips, there's a yellow orb. That is her synergy. So Kaya is from the city. That is city synergy. So if there were an effect that affected city types, it would affect Kaya. So there's city, tundra, jungle, desert, and mountain. And so those are kind of like our element types. But there's no like I said, there's no lands or resource card in the game, so you don't have to like build your deck with certain colors necessarily. There are strategies though that you can build into if you stick to certain colors.
Correct.
I'm curious. Is this the artwork for the card, or is this just like a drawing that? Yeah, okay.
This is a sketch. Yeah, so that because the TTS is so preliminary, Victor is our art guru. He's doing basically everything and he's awesome, but he's working at his pace and we're getting the finished pieces as we do. This is a preliminary sketch of Kaya that I just threw on the card, and basically any card you see that has that bright green kind of Nickelodeon slime green border is a prelim. That is a placeholder piece of art that we just have in there so the card isn't blank essentially. But the effects are all finalized on the cards.
I was gonna say like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. It's kind of like how Pokemon used to do the ones where occasionally it would be a little clay figure, like a real life clay figure on the card instead of an animated.
Totally. Yeah, we actually have plans to do besides the main set that we release each year, which PS, that's the plan, to do one big set each year. That's probably like 150 to 170 cards with new mechanics. all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff like that, just a fatty set for the year. But then we will do a few mini sets to introduce new functional cards, depending on how the meta formulates. Like I said, I'd really do look forward to throwing wrenches into what people are doing. So the mini sets will be a way for me to do that throughout the year. And we're also going to do collector sets, which are essentially going to be sets kind of like Magic Secret Lairs that are focused on alt art. Maybe we bring in a certain artist to redraw Ralph and a couple kaiju in their style or something along those lines. So that's to say, when you're talking about clay style art, things like that, it could happen at some point. I wouldn't be surprised.
That's gonna be awesome. And it sounds like you guys really took the time to think about making it affordable for the players, because sometimes it gets pricey trying to stay competitive
Yeah.
and having to get a new set that comes out every 4 to 6 months. Some TCGs are even shorter. I see some that are every other month.
Right. I think that's too much, man. I think you're choking your audience if you're doing that, to be honest.
Yeah.
We're all here to play a game and have fun, and we're all a little obsessed, which is why we're here, right? But I think taking advantage of that is an easy thing to do. And I'd like to choose to be better than that and to give people high quality and an amazing experience that they can look forward to each year, and that they don't feel like it's cutting into their life budget constantly, to be honest. Because I know how it is. I'm a gamer and a collector. I'm just as broke as all of us.
Yeah.
But
agree.
I think like you can do a lot with a little, I don't think one set and 3 mini sets and collector's set, I don't think that's that little. I think it'll feel like quite a bit. Definitely, I think that some of the companies that do like very, very frequent releases, people don't even have time to like sort out which cards are good and like what the meta is. The meta just moves on, and
Very good point.
I want people to take time and feel this out. It's a whole new experience.
1 a year sounds perfect. Absolutely perfect. Really, like I said, if it has 150 plus cards, plenty of time to play the meta, get used to the meta, and then by that time between holidays, that's it. We'll be ready for the next set.
People can casually collect the master set instead of
freaking out to get
stressing out to buy 100 boxes.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. If we keep things scaled to a manageable level, we can do everything with the utmost quality and attention, and that's the goal. Because Victor really does have amazing stories to tell, and I'm so excited for us to be able to break into that. But in the meantime, we want to show people how serious we are, and part of that is like, that's why we want you to see the game this early, even though the art's not all finished and everything's not polished. I think it's important for people to see what's cooking,
So as far as the story, how are we going to be able to be introduced to it?
So that's going to be coming gradually. For now, keep looking forward to more lore posts. Because of the stream, I kind of fell off for a couple days, but I'm planning to keep a few lore posts going up every week that'll continue to fill you in on not just nomsters and creatures, but some of the characters and how they fit into the story. We've also got some juicy plans to kind of release some plot related stuff soon, but I don't want to give too many details on that. But I can say that because Victor and I have mentioned this in previous live streams, we absolutely have plans to do a graphic novel. We just do not like a real high quality, do it proper graphic novel, but we do not want to rush that process, and we don't want to tack that on necessarily to our Kickstarter as a hype machine to get everybody going. Like, we want to stay focused. If we feel like the game is dialed and we can take the time to do the graphic novel right, you guys will hear about it right when we want to do that, but it's all about timing when you're running a business like this and you've only got a team of, like 5 people besides the playtesters. It's a pretty tight crew.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, so far I haven't seen one wrong move that like Yins haven't made a wrong move,
Hey, that's what I like to hear.
We started getting, I'm not gonna say worried, because we didn't know as a consumer what you guys already did and didn't have printed.
Right.
but like when it was like volume 1 and then volume 2 we're gonna drop next week or 2 weeks, and then like the original what we heard was gonna be the
Right.
schedule, we're like, oh no, like
Yeah. I was
because
feeling the same.
it
And those
felt
kind of
very
things,
overwhelmed.
you just got to learn as you go, that's the key. And I think personally, I'm not trying to give anybody business advice here at all. I wouldn't call myself a businessman yet, but I think that it's very important to just remain transparent, especially when you're an indie company. Like when you're this small, people are in it for you, the personality, the community, the feeling of being a part of it. And I feel like communication is key. Like when we told everybody that we were moving things around, that we were changing the drop dates, it's like, please understand that we do not act like we have it all figured out up front, but we're working constantly on it. So as we get things dialed, we'll communicate that.
You have a great community supporting you when everyone had a sigh of relief whenever we heard that, instead of oh come on,
Right.
I mean, we're all like, okay, cool, like at least we know things are going to be done correctly, because you know how it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. It's been a wave, this whole Kickstarter thing with the indie games and all that. And I know that in a lot of people's eyes, we're showing up on the later end of that. We're kind of showing up like after a lot of games have hit it big, and games are still doing great on Kickstarter. I'm not saying it's over by any means, but I've definitely heard some people be like, oh, so all these games on Kickstarter, they're just money grabs. And of course, a lot of them are. Like, I'm not trying to defend that at all. But at the same time, the reason why we've been doing it this way and trying to remain transparent and make the best decisions we can is because we want to show people that a good thing can like come of this as well. Something great can come out of a crowdfunded project that they were a part of, and that didn't run off with a paycheck or anything. That's the dream as a crowdfund. That's what you want to fund, and
passion projects.
So it's like, let's do it right, man. Make people happy.
Give the
Most
people
definitely.
what they want.
And it's amazing that like, I'm still kind of stuck on the gameplay of like, it gives the imagination the ability to tell a story.
Totally. You really do feel like you're moving your party members. Like when you see, whenever it's my turn and I'm like, okay, I'm looking at my party and it's like they're my bros right there. They're my friends, they're my homies, and I got to get them through this dungeon, and it's like level them up, equip them, move them up, move them back, be strategic with it. It's so much fun, and there's so many options on the turn. Like I said, that was the goal, not to make it overwhelming where you're looking at Flight Simulator or something and you're like, what? But just to like give you a chance to feel like you were making the story, you were making the decisions. It wasn't just the cards playing out the math and I win or you win. It was really like, man, I should not have moved Ralph back. If I wouldn't have moved, and I've already had games that were like that, where it was like, if I wouldn't have moved Ralph back, I could have steamrolled the next turn, but it ended up throwing off my AP, my actions for the turn, along with my distance from the enemies and things like that. So closing distance to attacks becomes like very, very strategic for sure. Because you charge in there and you swing your attacks, that's cool. Great job. Golf clap. But then you're sitting there, just you can't leave. You just use your AP to attack. So enemy is just going to pull out their sword and wreck you next turn, And so it gets very, very fun, very fun. I've never had a game that just felt mechanical. Every game feels like a story by the time you get to the end of it. And like when you take down that boss, it really felt like you were in a Jujutsu Kaisen fight or something, like we got to take this thing down.
It's just amazing. I mean, the way that it's set up, you got this final boss, you get to set up your own monsters for the dungeon. It really makes you feel like you get to play Dungeon Master, but you also get to play for another Dungeon Master in a sense.
Totally. before we went with Explorer for our name for players, we were considering Master Player because that was the original concept, was like half Dungeon Master, half player. Give you the experience of running your dungeon, but also doing a dungeon run, you know?
Yeah. And I can only imagine how people are gonna take like I can see people having in their basements tables where they built like 3D models of dungeons just to play
Oh
the
man,
and
you're
have
getting me
slots.
excited. Totally. I would love to see people mod their own sectors and stuff like that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, once
That's one
you
of the things I'm excited to see is just like people ran with D&D and have done so much with it. Part of the reason we've kept the design open in terms of like your limitations, we've tried to keep it very clear, like what you can and can't do, and also keep those options very broad so that like there's room to build your own formats on top of this. You know, this is a whole new game system. So like I'm looking forward to seeing people come up with their own format for how they'd like this to work. You know, like I've already got ideas for a multiplayer format where maybe more than one explorer plays as a team against someone who's just the dungeon master and like runs all the monsters in the dungeon or something like that. You know, there's
yeah,
definitely like room to make some really cool mods on top of the base game.
it's like an open source IRL game.
Yeah.
For
You could
sure.
just
That's a cool way to put it. I like
you
that.
decide to play it is
So
how you can play it.
one thing I'm thinking is when you play them, are we gonna be able to play on traditional standard playing mats or what is
Yeah.
the size? Okay, cool.
Yeah, right now it's traditional playmat size. I might look into making a little more extended mats as an option if people want more room, because of course that would be cool. Um,
Hmm.
but for now, we want to keep it standard size just so that if you already have a playmat, you can use your playmat. You know, it's also why
Yeah.
I tried to keep the board setup actually pretty basic. Once you learn how it works, it's really just a line down the middle of your
Hmm.
sectors. Your party's on the left, your nomsters are on the right. Any items attached to your party members just go next to them. So if you don't have the grid in front of you, it should be pretty intuitive to lay out anyway. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted this game to be as easy to learn as I could. You know, every time you play a new game, it's a learning experience. The first time we all played Monopoly, it was like, what? How's this work? You know, but you learn as you go, and once you get the flow, that's when it all clicks. Now, when you play Monopoly, it's like, oh yeah, I know how this is. Blah blah blah. We do this. I pay you money. You know, it's easy, and it's the
Hmm.
same thing with this game. When you first start to play it, it's like, right, I gotta it feels like you're moving a lot of pieces because yeah, you're moving the pieces that represent your characters or whatever. But once you actually play it and get into it, it flows very well. It feels very good. You don't feel like you're missing things. You know, that's something I tried to avoid was like putting cues that would easily be missed. You want to feel like you know what's going on the board and that you know how your turn is going to go. You know, and so that's definitely part of it being built in is like I kept my language understandable to the best of my ability and as simple as I could. I didn't want to have paragraphs. You can see when it shows a card, it's like, you know, a couple sentences telling you what's going on.
Yeah. Not like we get into Yu-Gi-Oh! We gotta bust out the magnifying glass.
Yeah,
No,
and
exactly.
aside from certain effects, I imagine, even if you didn't have the some of the text, it would still be very easy to explain. You know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah,
+2 speed, +5. You know what
right,
I mean? Like,
right. The symbols actually help a bit. Like we're only really asking you to learn about a dozen symbols that you have to memorize what they mean between the genetics and like the move, you know, power utility. But that stuff is pretty intuitive. I mean, a foot is move, you know, the fist is power. Your brain will click it pretty quick. And then we're actually gonna I've started incorporating into the card language itself the actual symbols so that you don't have to go like move, wait, which thing is move? It's just like there's the move symbol and the
Yeah,
buff, you know.
that's great. There's the little blue gem.
Yep,
On the
exactly.
face. Yeah.
Exactly. It starts to feel like a video game, to be honest. That's what we wanted. And we've had a lot of people, the playtesters have said that like every single one of them who played it, they're like, I really kind of feel like I'm playing like
Final
a
Fantasy.
TRPG, like a
Yeah.
tactical RPG game with how the cards read and how everything works.
That's
yeah,
so
I'm
cool.
very excited. soon as the TTS gets available.
I'll hit you guys up as soon as that's ready. Like I said, I'm gonna release it this week, and maybe we could even get a game on here. Maybe we could even play a game on the channel or something. Show you guys how it works personally. Yeah. Yeah, because it's really fun. It's a little hard to explain move by move when we're watching it like this, but essentially you can see that by the way the board state's progressing, my 2 champions are still way back in my sectors. That's because my first sector there is called the Dark and Deep, and it's a water sector that reduces the move on any non-water cards down to 1. So both my characters only had 1 move, so like they're crawling through that sector to start the game. But once they get out of that, they'll zoom down to the other end. And then I've got my dinos on the other side. This is a dino deck. And I've got my Voltoraptor and my Tankylosaurus. They're the 2 red dice that are starting to converge on the blue dice there. And this is when our battles we start to clash a little bit.
Yeah, this is actually where I wanted to pause it, was where we get to actually see more than just the movement and the effects.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a certain amount of setup. Usually the first 2 turns, you're just kind of moving, leveling up, equipping, and then you bump into each other and things start to get spicy. And so to explain a little more while we're getting into this, in terms of attack range and stuff like that, you can attack with a melee, your standard attack. You can attack anything that is within the same sector as you and the same lane. So for instance, my party members on the left side could not attack his party members on the right side if they got all the way up there to that sector. There's no cross lane interaction at this point. Okay. Not saying that we won't eventually build that in, but the idea for this was to start with a clean dungeon run. You're headed towards their boss, they're headed towards your boss. Yeah. And anything that's in your sector and in your lane, you can attack unless it has flying or some sort of evasive effect on it. But typically, you can attack anything that's in the sector. The deck that Noah is playing specifically has some long range genetics in its champions, and long range is this little targeting symbol that means they can attack the sector in front of or behind them with attacks, which is really good. I'm certainly expecting to see people try to build a long range deck that just tries to kind of flame throw everything in the sector in front of them as they work towards the boss, and go for it. I think you'll find it's a little more challenging than it sounds, but yeah, so there's ways to extend attack range, and your typical attack is just within the sector, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in the same space. If you are in the same space, though, you are required to interact with each other. So if my champion is in the same space as one of his nomsters, I have to attack them before I move on. I could attack them and pass by, keep going, run away, but I'm required to engage if able. Yeah.
All right, so what if you're 1 space before them and you have 2 move spaces available? Can you just bypass theirs and go to the next space, or because you're still passing through that, you have to interact?
You have to interact. Yeah. The only way you'd get away with it is if they had something that put them out of range, like flying or digger, where you actually couldn't target them because you didn't have reach or whatever you need to target, then you could just move right past them. But otherwise, let's say they were in, you were at the last space in one sector, they were in the first space in the next sector, and you entered in a move of 3 and you went bunk, you'd have to stop moving and engage them with an AP before you continued on the way. And some cards even won't let you continue. Cactarnosaur is a pretty dangerous dino who it can't be passed. So you literally have to deal with this thing and fully KO it before you can get past it.
What about portal jumping or skipping?
There is an ability. He actually, that magic wand that's attached to his first player, Belmonte there, that's okay. Belmonte's wand, and that can warp a local. Local is same lane, same sector. It can warp any local 5 spaces forward or backward. And he actually uses it very smartly this game to warp past one of my dinos, and he gets to the other side of them without having to engage. So that's definitely a play. Yeah.
I can imagine how many different like deck builds you've already been concocting.
I've been cooking, bro. I mean, it's fun. Literally, the game, I'm obsessed with it. Not just because I made it, but it feels like there's so much new ground to crack into that, like, me and the testers are just having so much fun, like, trying out new strategies. I won't spoil exactly what, but you'll figure them out pretty quick. Once you start playing the game, you'll be like, what if I just try it this way? And you'll think it's broken, but it's really not yet. It's really not. It's a pretty balanced game, and you can do a lot, but so can they, so it evens out.
And that's one of the awesome things too, is that, like kind of we said earlier, being open source, it's like, you can play it, you can play every card, anyway, as long as it makes sense. So there
Yep.
is no specific, like, you're not stuck to, oh, I'm playing a mountain, so I need mountain aura, or, there's no aura,
Correct.
there's none of that. So you can, every card is up for grabs.
Correct. Because to be honest, when I looked at that situation, I did consider that, like, making some sort of typing that would be restrictive, you could say, something that would force you into certain patterns. And to be honest, everything about that idea I didn't really like. I was like, well, what ends up happening is all the players build one way and are waiting with bated breath for you to drop the multi aura, or the multi land, or the multi resource. And
Yeah.
that's cool. It works. It's a great approach for other games, but why don't we just let them go right from the start? Set them free. Let people build whatever they can come up with, and consider it our job to keep an eye on the power levels. That's what I feel like that's all that matters. Just
Yeah.
make sure that the gameplay feels interesting, feels balanced, and you don't know who's going to win. That's crucial to having fun.
I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh did it, and look how successful they are. So much fun. So,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
this
Yu-Gi-Oh!
way more
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the game who I always point to as the one that didn't clone Magic, and I think that's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
they are totally unique, totally like a different style of game. And the first time I heard how Yu-Gi-Oh! Worked with all the free cards, I was like, what? No, there's no way. This whole game must be broken. It's like, no, it's just different. It works in its own ways. And
from Pokemon.
And it was one of the first games that I ever played that you could say, in a sense, had like expansion sets, because not only did it have different sets, but like with each set came this new mechanic that you now had to try to fit in with everything else.
right,
Like, oh, here's fusion, and now here's ritual,
right.
and now here's synchro, or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, so now everything that was meta or even remotely close to being viable is thrown out the window, and you have to restructure.
Right, right. And
So
like Magic does it in that cruel, they just put down those hard formats that's like, well, this is a standard tournament, so all those cards are trash.
Yeah.
You only use these cards. And granted, it makes for a good playing field. I'm not trying to critique what they're doing as much as just say, like, I wanted to try a different approach.
yeah.
And I think it's a viable one. I think that people are going to really like the feel of how the meta arises, because it's going to be more of a movement, strategic, actually setting traps, like strategic traps for people that you'll bait them in, to certain sectors, and then drop a nomster down. Because, by the way, your party members start, like I said, at the entrance to the dungeon, but your nomsters you can drop anywhere on your side, so anywhere in your 5 sectors. So if their party is on your side and making their way to the boss, you can drop some big ass dino like right on top of them and just go to town and chew them up, and it's like, that's what you get for being in my turf. So it can be really exciting, like the amount of turnarounds that can happen in a game. It's so cool.
So my question is, so we'll have a set once a year
Yeah,
for play. Will the last set still play, or are they gonna cycle through, kind of like Pokemon and Magic, where
it'll still play. It'll still
awesome,
play.
awesome,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we get 10 years down the line, who knows, we may need to address things. But
Yeah.
for now, the goal is it's one big meta. It's one big competitive format at this point. It'll be our PvP format, and it's gonna. We want all the cards to be playable and retain value. We've already designed ways in the future to bring attention back to some of these first set cards,
Cool.
for a little bit of a hint. But yeah, I'm telling you, we've got some cool stuff cooking, man. I can't wait for you guys to see. This isn't the only fresh idea. The gameplay's fresh, but just wait till you see some of our ideas for effects and cards and stuff.
Awesome.
I'm excited to double the play mats and make it like a mega campaign.
Yeah, we're looking into 2-player mats also, so we could get some cool, like, big layouts.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be
2-player
insane.
play mats are always nice.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what rises to the top. Honestly, there's not really a lot of vanilla cards in the game, and that was a goal because the mechanics were so fresh and there was so much to do, and everything is very plot driven. I know that you guys are just getting into the plot now. We haven't given you all that we've built, but so much of these characters, in terms of their effects, the thought has gone into this based on their stories and where things go. And I think that the more we get into that, and the more you see like how much is behind all of these cards and how much has gone into them, it's really going to just pull people in that much further. Not only is it a nice gaming experience, but the story of the world is going to be huge.
Yeah, well, it'll definitely keep you invested, when you have characters that you like.
And it
For
sounds a
sure.
lot like even the simpler decks have a good chance at winning if played properly. It's not like there's going
For
to be
sure.
this major meta that everyone's going to plan on building.
Right. And we're going to be very considerate with our rarities, like when we designed the golden turtle, for instance, the secret rare from the proto packs, we were very careful to make it a good card. It's definitely a good card. Noah actually plays it in this game, and I have to address it at one point because the golden turtle, it lowers movement in local and adjacent sectors. So your local sector and then the ones on either side of you are your adjacent sectors, and it lowers movement by 1 on all enemies in those sectors, and it will take it to a minimum of 0. It's one of the only cards that can take you to a minimum of 0, so it can actually stop your move until it's dealt with. But it doesn't have any other effects, and you can destroy it pretty easily. It's only got 5 hearts, so I can blow the thing up pretty simply. So we wanted to make it cool and unique, but not like game breaking. Like I didn't want people to have the secret rare to win a game, or even to have a better chance of winning a game. I didn't even want it to increase their odds. I just wanted it to be a cool card that if they want to use it, it does something unique. But you're perfect. Like most games that get 1 are not going to have a golden turtle in the deck because you don't need it, and that was the goal, is let everybody have the ability to get a hold of the good cards, play a good game. Sure, there's going to be some amazing chases that are really powerful, but there's going to be some really powerful cards easy to get in the main set that you can totally win a game with if you're smart with your movements and stuff.
I think that's going to make it even better, not to just get dominated all the time by the top 3
Yeah.
cards,
Yeah, dude. This is definitely a game that has a little bit more of a skill cap to it. Like, people can have fun even if they're not competitive. It's fun because of how much you can imagine moving through the dungeon, fighting the nomsters, building up your party. It's a cool game just style wise to experience, and I think people will have a lot of fun just skirmishing and brawling, But in terms of like really competitive, serious play, I think the skill ceiling is beyond a lot of games. There's going to be some seriously good players who employ some unexpected strategies, I think, just like happens in chess. You're just like, man, the guy's a genius. I have a feeling we'll have similar things pop up every once in a while with NOM.
Interactive battle chess.
That's right. Yeah.
So obviously
somebody else called it tabletop auto chess, and I was like, yeah, kind of similar. Definitely inspired by some of those games.
I like that. It'll obviously be the goal will be to get it in LGSs, correct? Anywhere else?
Yes, definitely in LGSs. Yeah, I mean, we'd love to get it elsewhere. That's part of what we are taking this time to move the Kickstarter back, is just because so many new doorways are opening for us with the proto packs. People seeing that we're serious, seeing how cool the game is. We're having those conversations now to try to see what we're able to do.
Yeah, I can't wait to put it on the shelves in the lobby of the studio.
I can just see
Heck
a variety
yeah, man.
of stores carrying it, not just necessarily an LGS like your standard Magic Pokemon shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping. I really wanted, like you mentioned in the beginning of the show, you said it, man. I want to grab the board game crowd. I want to show the Warhammer guys that you don't have to take 3 days to play the game. You can get a really cool strategic experience in an hour, you know? Same with the Risk guys. Like, I know the 10-hour game Battling for Australia is a classic, but why don't we try playing for 1 hour and having something totally new, you know?
Yes. That's a good example. Risk.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there. The person who sets the troops in Australia, and you're like, do I want to start putting troops there? Do we want to start this already? Turn 1, do we want to be fighting for Australia? Yes. Yes, you do.
Awesome. Well,
I'm excited for more people to see it, man.
Well, here we are. We got a bunch of good questions I think we got in.
Yeah.
This
has been great.
All the people that
It's been great, guys.
See the game footage. Is there anything
that
would be interesting that we didn't ask, that we didn't think to talk about?
Let me think on that. I feel like we've covered a lot. I would say not so much something interesting, but just kind of a mission statement that I want to put out there repeatedly is that we are, Victor and I are definitely creatives, and we are working our asses off to bring you guys like the best possible product, but we have a lot to learn in a lot of these spaces. Not to say that we're not good at it. We're doing well. Like you said, you've agreed with a lot of decisions. I think we're making good decisions too. But if there's people who have knowledge in some of these spaces, especially when it comes to international shipping and relations and things like that, we want as many people to be able to access this game as possible. And so educating ourselves is just part of the process. So if anybody like has ideas about ways that we can reach more people, you know, in a better way, if you know about distributors that we should talk to or things like that, you know, we're a grassroots effort here. We're learning it all as we go, and so we're always open to ideas and suggestions and, you know, pointers.
Yeah. Random question: what size are the cards? Standard playing card size or small? Okay.
Standard. We didn't go the Yu-Gi-Oh route.
Yeah, I hope they were bigger, not smaller.
They're bigger, yeah. And they're even a little bit thicker. If you look at like the proto cards, once you see them, just a hair. We just made them a little thicker, just because I think it feels good to have a slightly thicker card. Still shuffles nice, you know. You can still do it all, but
standard plain sleeve. I imagine it's not that thick,
yep.
right?
Yep. No, standard playing sleeve. You're all good. Yeah.
Sweet. Then perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
I told you he's all about the gameplay.
Like I don't like the little cards anymore. Once you go back to regular cards, you can't go back to small cards. It's like I don't like this. I want to.
Yeah, when I mentioned I was learning Yu-Gi-Oh before, when I was learning Yu-Gi-Oh and I was shuffling, I'm like, this just feels so wrong. And the Yu-Gi-Oh players were like, no, it feels so right. And I'm like, no, it feels wrong.
No, it's too small. It's just too small.
Yeah.
So sweet. All right, you won.
Standard size, good. You're good there. They'll be nice and easy. And just the way that we tried to, you know, this is a good example with Beta 3. We really tried to make the card half pictures and half words. And we tried to make the pictures easy to understand, like the calling cost, the AP pips, you know, hearts, things like that. Because I think it's fun this way. And your brain will read the information, man. Once you learn these symbols, it's just like bing, bang, boom. You know everything about the card with so little scanning, you know?
Yeah.
It's like having your own little like HUD from a video game on the
Totally. Totally.
The heart, I love that for the graphic, for the artwork, that it still has that 8-bit look to the heart. I love it.
Yeah. Victor is adamant on that, and I love it. He's the one who's really made the call to commit to like the pixelated font and to the hearts and the AP symbols, all of that. That was all him, and I was just like, yes. Like every time he sent me a new image, I'm just like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, I love the retro look to a lot of it.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, like I've said 100 times now, you guys are doing it right. I'm excited for, what more is in store and what's going to come our way. I'm thankful to be an anchor for you guys and to bring this content.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it. Honestly, it means a lot to have so many people want to be a part of this. That was the goal. These TCG things, they're all about the community. It really is. People, I know that money gets thrown around and people are serious buyers and all this and all that, but we're all here because when we hang out with other TCG players, we just have a great time. That's what makes us want to hang out and go to these conventions and spend the money and do it all, and I really think it's time to give people something fresh, a fresh take, from a TCG player, from a few of them who are really serious about it. And
I think everybody is really gonna like this game.
Yeah, this is it's gonna blow up faster than I think you think it is.
Oh man, warm in my heart right now. I try to keep my eyes on the grind and just stay focused. But I'll tell you right now, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the excitement bubbling. I'm feeling how many people are interested and genuinely interested just to learn more about how it plays. Everybody who sees the board and the setup with the sectors are like, "Can you tell me more about this? Like, what is this?"
It immediately catches the eye. I'll tell you that.
Heck yeah!
Without knowing anything. Now.
Hey, thanks, Victor. Thanks for making it catch the eye.
Yeah. Amazing artwork.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna try to have you on again, like we said. Whenever the TTS is playable, we'll give a little bit of time for us to learn it behind the scenes and everything, and then we'll bring you back on and we'll play a game live on here.
That's a deal, man. That's a deal. That sounds great.
Oh, I can't wait.
All right. Hey, man, again, I greatly appreciate you for taking time out of your day. Come do this for us.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys reaching out and having me come on, dude. It was fun to get to crack into it a bit. We'll do it more.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. For everyone else watching, this has been TCG News and Reviews with Bull and Keeper and our special guest,
Moldy.
Right on, guys.
Hey, I'm not the special guest.
No, I thought you were gonna finish saying his name.
No, Moldy's good. Moldy works.
All right, we'll catch you guys next week.